Good morning. Okay, so today we're going to do two things. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do some more of these conveyance translations so that we sort of understand a few more wrinkles that there are going on here and we grasp this. And then the second thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to direct you guys to a survey I've written that I would like you to fill out that helps me understand what is and isn't working in the class. Okay, so let's get right to it. All right, so I'm going to put a conveyance in the chat. To A for life, then to A's heirs. So what interests are created by this conveyance? Okay, life interest for A's life. So then when A dies, who gets the land?
Yeah, sir. Morning. That part that's the for me that's where I'm not certain. I know for sure it goes to the person that is alive, A. But then what if that person doesn't have any heirs? Does it? I know you was talking about
Heirs don't exist until people die, right? No, but let's always start by asking, what does the conveyance say? And then you need to ask the question of, does what the conveyance says, is that an outcome that we allow, right? So what does the conveyance say?
okay, it says to A for life and then to A's heirs. And if I'm playing what you just mentioned, if what the conveyance says is that would it be allowed? Yes. And where A then passes on, and then whoever are their heirs then will have the conveyance. So yes.
Right. So what the conveyance says is, I'm going to put this in the chat so that you can see it for those of you who understand things better with text. So the conveyance says life estate to A, remainder to A's heirs. However, there is a rule in some jurisdictions from a case called Shelley's case. And this is a merger rule where if a present interest and a future interest are held by the same person, or they're held by someone who is subject to the same person, then those interests merge. Okay, so in Shelley's case jurisdictions, this conveyance creates fee simple absolute in A. Okay, and
Somewhere, please.
Go ahead, Kerry. I'm sorry. What?
Or elaborate more. Where you just stated that if it's simple absolute. So could you please explain that?
Fee simple absolute just means that you own the land forever and there's no future interest. So this is why this is why I tell you guys, right, when you're writing the interests created by a conveyance, you always have to end with somebody who is certain to receive the property in fee simple absolute. That always has to be the end of the chain of title, because at some point, all interests have to merge back together. Okay. So does that answer your question, Carrie?
Yeah, I believe it a little bit.
Okay. The thing that's confusing about this, right, is that it is not always clear when present interests and future interests merge. But here is what I think is a really good rule of thumb. If you can identify the person who holds the future interest, then probably merger does not happen. Unless the person who holds the future interest is the same as the person who has the present interest. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that. Okay, to A for life, then to A and their heirs. Well, A still receives, A now holds in fee simple because after they die, they get the remainder, which automatically devolves to their heirs. Okay, so does the rule in Shelley's case make more sense now? Do we feel like we understand? And not every jurisdiction uses this rule. So you have to check and make sure whether your jurisdiction uses Shelley's case or not. Okay. So do we understand the merger doctrine? We feel comfortable with this. Going once. Okay. What's still confusing?
I guess, sir, if I will have to read the Shelley's case to get a better understanding.
Well, I would not encourage you to go looking for Shelley's case in particular, because this is another one of these quite old English cases. I would encourage you to review the material in the textbook that talks about this. Give me just a second and I will give you some page numbers to look at. Starting on page 142 in the Owusu book, and then in the Coraline, give me 1 second. Here we go. In the Codolini, let's see. Not sure that Codolini talks about it, so it may just be in the Owusu. Yeah, I'm not seeing this in the Codolini. So, yeah. So that's the the key thing, and let me give you some things to think about. On page 143 in the Owusu, there are conditions for the rule in Shelley's case. Okay. So there are 4 conditions, and I'll explain what's going on in just a second, Crystal. I'll explain what's going on. I promise I have not missed that you came in late. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we all understand the Shelley's case rule. Okay. So yeah, page 143, there's 4 conditions, and they all have to be met. Okay, and it's prior estate, remainder to the heirs of that same person, right? Has to be 1 conveyance. And yeah, so the rest is all here. Okay. All right. So does this maybe give us a better grip, Carrie? Do you feel like you have a better understanding of what we're trying to figure out with Shelley's case?
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay, so now for the latecomers, okay, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We're doing a few conveyance exercises, and then we're going to do a survey related to sort of how the class is going generically. And when you guys came in, we were talking about this conveyance that I'm putting in the chat. Okay. And if you just read the conveyance, the interests created by this conveyance are a life estate in A and a remainder in A's heirs. But what I'm telling you is that in some jurisdictions, Shelley's case is followed where these 2 estates merge so that A takes in fee simple absolute. Okay? So that is the first conveyance. Here's the second one. I'm going to put it in the chat for you. Okay. To A until they become a lawyer, then to B until they marry, then to C and their heirs, so long as C never marries a Montague. So let's start with the present interest, right? Who gets the present interest and what interest do they get?
All right, sir. So A gets the first interest
Okay.
until they become a lawyer.
And what do they have?
Whatever the interest is. and then it says,
Well, no, you've only identified an interest once you tell me who holds it and what they hold.
oh, okay.
So you have to tell me what they hold. You can't just say whatever it is.
Okay. All right.
So what do they, Akil says A gets the present right. A holds a fee simple determinable, okay? So who holds with a fee simple determinable, there has to be a future interest because there is the possibility that the fee simple will fail. So who holds the first future interest? And what do they hold? That's right, B holds the first future interest. What do they hold? Okay. Almost, right? Remember that remainders are future interests that attach to life estates because they are certain to vest. Okay. So with a defeasible fee, the term we use for the future interest is different. It's not a remainder. But you are correct, Akil. Let me tell you this. You are correct that when B's future interest vests, it does vest as a fee simple determinable. You have correctly identified what their possessory interest will be. Okay, but we haven't identified what the future interest is yet. Okay, Crystal, why do you think the whole conveyance is void? I'm afraid I'm not sure what you're saying. Can you explain this a little more? I still don't understand.
So you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What's up? Why do you think it's void?
Because they're conditions to me which are obviously uncertain. um to A until they become a lawyer. It's like for example, Stapleton and Stapleton case, a condition that requires the grantee to continue to reside in Canada, which was held to be void for uncertainty. How do we know this lady to A until they become a lawyer? Like,
I'm sorry,
is
say
she going to
say
become a lawyer?
what's the
I'm saying that because with conveyances, there are conditions which are void in fee simple estate. And as somebody here pointed out, that is a B would hold a fee simple determinable as a remainder, but it's a determinable fee simple, but it's still one that has conditions which leads to the conveyance being void in the fee simple estate.
I'm afraid I don't understand what you're saying, because
okay.
The whole idea behind a defeasible fee is that the condition may never occur.
Right, so there's uncertainty. So that's what I'm saying, that the conditions here are uncertain. But I could be wrong, I don't know.
Well, what I'm concerned about this because it seems to me that you're drawing on a case, and I don't want to discourage you from reading the cases and sort of trying to understand the judgments that the courts are making. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is the possibility that the case you're drawing on is using a specific context. And so there may be facts that are present in the case that are not present in the hypothetical in the conveyance that we're looking at, and you have to be able to recognize when cases are distinguishable, right? Because one of the most dangerous moments for any lawyer is when you stand up in court and you say, Your Honor, our case is just like the case of Smith versus Jones, and so like the plaintiff in Smith, we should win. And the judge goes, well, counselor, I don't think Smith versus Jones is applicable at all. Right? What do you do then? So for now, right? Okay, we're not going to go down this road too far, okay? But the key piece of this is that you have to have an explanation for your argument that is based on general principles, because if you're drawing on one case and the judge doesn't buy that case says what you say it says, if they read it differently than you do, well, you better have another argument, or you better have your malpractice insurance paid up. So I think that one of the things that we're doing now, right, is we are starting with, let's figure out what the words say, right? This is the first question in any conveyance. What do the words say? What does the conveyance purport to create? Then we can ask, is this an interest that we would allow? Is this is this something that's permitted under the law? Okay, so to A, until they become a lawyer, then to B until they marry, then to C and their heirs, so long as C never marries a Montague, right? We know that A has a fee simple determinable. We know that when B's interest vests, they will have a fee simple determinable. But what do they have at the time of the conveyance? A is not the grantor. Shakila, right? A is the first grantee. So the question that we're trying to answer, I don't want to answer any other question. The question that we're trying to answer is, what future interest does B have? We have to do this systematically. We have to do it one step at a time, okay? Crystal, I understand that you think the conveyance is void. I'm asking you, what does the conveyance say? Okay, I'm asking you, assume that it is valid. So assuming that the conveyance is valid, what future interest does B have?
Good morning, Dr. Carl.
Good morning.
It's more of a question. So, when answering those questions, are you answering for what that person immediately has all the time, or would it be sometimes be answering for what they would have should those conditions be fulfilled? Because in the tutorial questions, you would see some questions would ask, for example, one of the questions will specify to the heirs getting a certain number of ages. Do we answer for when that happens and what would they have, or what do they have currently?
The answer is you should always start by asking, what interests does the conveyance create, right? What interest does it say it creates? And then you can ask the question, is this a valid conveyance, or is this recipient someone that we allow to receive? Is this someone that we'll allow to receive under these circumstances? Is this a is this a conveyance that meets the requirements for being considered a conveyance, right? So the answer is you should start with the words that the conveyance says. And then you start looking at the rules that surround these things. Okay, but the first step is always, what does it say?
All right, thank you.
Yep. So Ramos says that B has a fee simple subject to condition subsequent. Again, we know that the present interest is a fee simple determinable. Okay, when B's interest vests, they will have a fee simple determinable. What is the future interest? promise you guys, I told you on Thursday that with the two types of defeasible fees, there are matching future interests, and that it's far more important that you know which future interest goes with which defeasible fee than that you figure out which thing which type of defeasible fee there is. We're going to come back to uncertainty. I'm not discussing uncertainty at this time. I am trying to answer the question, what future interest? Okay, let's start with something simpler. List future interests. What types of future interests exist? Give me a list of future interests. No, we're talking about future interests. I'm looking for a list of terms.
One of those terms would be fee simple pro rata V, where it would be dependent on someone's life. I'm assuming another one.
Nope, that's nope. First of all, fee simple means that there's no limitation.
Okay.
Right. So there's no limitation on inheritability. So there's no life involved. Okay. So there's no such thing as a fee simple pro rata V.
Okay.
And per rata V refers to a present interest.
Okay. So would those be things like reverters and those things?
I'm sorry, you broke.
Reverters and those things.
You broke up a little bit, Travis. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me, Dr. Carl?
Yes, I can hear you.
Are you asking about reverters and those kinds of interests?
Yes, those are future interests. Let's start by listing them. Shakila, I just want a list at this point. List the future interests. Remainders. There's more. Reversions.
Would a right of entry be one?
Right of re-entry.
I'm not sure if this would count as a normal reverter, but a possibility of reverter, would that be one as well?
Possibility of reverter is the last one. Now, you will see a label running around called an executory limitation. An executory limitation is a term for both a possibility of reverter and a right of re-entry, because these are future interests that require something to execute for them to vest. Okay. You'll also see executory interest subject with that refers to future interests in like easements and other non-possessory interests in land. But right now we're talking about possessory interests. And so possibility of reverter, right of re-entry, reversion, remainder. So if your present interest is a fee simple determinable, what did I tell you is the future interest that attaches? Right, Shakila. Possibility of reverter. So what future interest does B have according to this conveyance? And let me put it in the chat again so that we can all have it in front of us. So this is the conveyance. So we know A has a fee simple determinable. What does B have? Guys, we literally just walked through this. What does B have?
I'm assuming B would have the possibility of reverter where the estate will be granted to him if those conditions are met.
Right. They have a possibility of reverter to what possessory interest, right? So to fully describe the future interest, you identify the future interest, you identify the holder, and you identify what they will get when it vests. So possibility of reverter to be in what present interest?
That would be a fee simple determinable.
Right, a fee simple determinable, right? And again, Crystal, I know that you think that this is void because it's uncertain. We're going to talk about that in just a minute, okay? What does C have? What is C's future interest? That's C's possessory interest, so that's part of the puzzle, but we still haven't, you gotta start with what the future interest is.
I'm assuming she also has another possibility of reversal because it's based on a condition for her to not get married.
Right, because B has a fee simple determinable, we know that C also has a possibility of reverter. Because the condition is different, right? Because it's phrased differently in C's grant, we know that they have a fee simple condition subsequent, okay? So if C's condition subsequent is met, what happens then? What future interest is created by that? And who holds it? And what possessory interest does it convey?
Can you rephrase that last part, please?
Sure. Let's assume that C's condition triggers, okay? What future interest is created by that triggering condition and who holds it?
I'm guessing it will be a reversion where it will go back to the original grantor since she did not meet those.
You're right about who. You're right about who. But the fee simple condition subsequent creates what kind of future interest?
That would be the right of re-entry.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. Okay. So this is what the conveyance says. Okay. Now let's talk about uncertainty. First of all, you have to understand that uncertainty only applies to fee simple subject to condition subsequent. It does not apply to fee simple determinables. Okay. So if the event is a named but unpredictable event, it's a fee simple determinable and uncertainty doesn't matter. Okay. Let me give you an example in the chat of a conveyance with an uncertain condition that would be void, right? That Crystal's absolutely right. Uncertain conditions create void conveyances, okay? But let me show you an example. To A, so long as they are a good person, then to B and their heirs. And the reason this is uncertain is because how do we know what a good person looks like? We don't, right? Okay. So this is why uncertainty doesn't matter for fee simple determinable, because fee simple determinable would be something like 2A to A unless they are convicted of a felony, then to B and their heirs. Now, do I think that this is a valid determinable condition? Maybe not, right? It might be void as violating public policy, but assuming that it's valid for other reasons, it accomplishes a similar goal, right? Under the assumption that if you've been convicted of a felony, you can't be a good person, but it's a valid conveyance. Okay, now we can quibble over whether being convicted of a felony means you're a good person, but I think the point is made that whether or not you meet the condition has to be what's uncertain. It's not, is it uncertain that the condition will ever be met, right? That's not how this works, because then there would be, if that were the rule, there would be no such thing as a defeasible fee. Okay. The question for uncertainty has to be, well, how do you know? Okay, and if you can't answer that, then it's uncertain. Crystal, does this make more sense now? Do we understand this now? The ROR is the right of reentry. Yeah, sorry, I'm using shorthand. I'm using shorthand so that to type faster. I'm sorry. Yeah, ROR is the right of reentry. So great. Okay, guys. I want to make one more point about this conveyance. So let me put this conveyance back in the chat so that we're looking at it. Okay. So with this conveyance, I want to make the point. We generally don't like to use property to restrain people's consciences. And so a complete restraint on marriage, right, which is what B's condition is probably void for public policy reasons. OG is the original grantor, right? The OG. So complete restraints on marriage, probably void, okay? So in this conveyance, as it's written, probably under the rule against restraints of marriage, C has nothing, B has a possibility of reverter in fee simple absolute. And then here into the commentary, because we now have a fee simple absolute. If we change the condition for B so that it's valid, whatever it is, right? So that C still has that. C still has the fee simple subject to condition subsequent because partial restraints on marriage are allowed. Okay, so complete restraints on marriage, are no good, right? But partial restraints on marriage are valid. Okay, and what's a partial restraint on marriage? It can be, I don't want you to get married until you're 25. It can be, I don't want you to marry that no good boyfriend you're dating right now. It can be, I don't want you to marry anybody from this family that I hate. Okay, all of these are restraints on marriage that would be considered valid. But completely saying you can never get married or you lose this piece of property that I want to give you, that's not going to happen. That's not going to be allowed. Okay, so we're almost out of time. So I want to show you one other thing. And that's the rest of today's activity. And I have put a survey up on e-learning, and I'm going to show you where to find it. So you go onto the course website, you go and find this week's block, you click on the midterm course evaluation. And it's just 8 questions, and I'd like you to answer them, at your convenience this week, please. And yeah, your answers will be anonymous, so you can be as unrestrained as you want. But the key thing here is, I want to know what's working for you, and I want to know what's not working for you, because I want to do more of the things that are working, and I want to do less of the things that aren't working. Okay, so with that, I'm going to let you go. Go ahead, Crystal. What's up?
I just want to know the question that you put in the 2A until they become a lawyer. With this question or this conveyance, sorry, we would start off answering it as it relates to like the possibility of the reverter, which could be, and like how you went through just now, and then to conclude as it being uncertain. Is there still uncertainty even though we touch the future interest or not?
Yeah, we can answer the question of whether A is a lawyer, and so that's the issue when you're looking at the doctrine of uncertainty. Okay, we know whether A is or is not a lawyer. If they are, then the condition triggers. If they're not, then it doesn't. Does that answer the question? You came off mute and then you muted yourself again. Sorry. Great. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to let you guys go, and I will see you tomorrow in class. Talk to you later. Bye.